Oh, is this thing working? All right, we're live. So, doing a little bit of a late night Mopar chat live. I had to do some traveling for work. It's always a real kind of pain in the ass whenever I have to leave to really do anything. Not that it's a bad thing. I actually enjoy the travel. I enjoy the camaraderie and everything else that I have with my clients. But, it's one of these interesting situations where sometimes it just wears on you. It usually hits at like the worst possible time, or it can anyway. So anyway, that's why the change of venue. As you guys know, I've been done this one or two times already, where I'll just kind of decide I want to do one of these live shows. And in this case, I really did have a topic that I'd love to get your opinions on. And part of this has something to do with the fact that I'm coming up on my 1 year, or actually, I'm just passing up 1 year's worth of ownership of my Hellcat. By far the most favorite car that I've ever owned. I know I said that about my 392, but this is a completely different thing. And, so we're just going to roll with that. But, the more I started thinking about the 1 year ownership of my Hellcat, the more it got me to thinking about my time with my SRT 392. And there are times when I actually really do miss that car. And just not near enough to ever want to get rid of my Hellcat for another one, which leads me to the topic of discussion, and it's what I want to get y'all's opinion on. Is the Challenger becoming irrelevant? Now, I want to definitely draw a line of distinction between the Challenger and the Charger. The Charger is a completely different animal in that it's a true four-door sedan. It's a large, more or less a family car in a way, if you wanted to look at it that way. So you can't really lump it into the same conversation as you can the Challenger. Really, the Challenger, of all things, it's the only two-door running around with either a 392 or a Hellcat platform for that matter. So at any rate, kind of the ground rules aside, so my point to all this is Mopar, Dodge, FCA, however you want to call it, hasn't had anything really worth talking about since, I don't know, sometime around November or October of 2014. Now, I'm sorry to tell you that if you think that the Demon was a big deal, yeah, it kind of was. And the red eye is a thing. But the red eye is nothing more than just a minor evolution of the Hellcat platform, and arguably not necessarily quite the value that the Hellcat is. And the Demon, although it's a great leap forward, I guess you could call it, as far as a tarted up Hellcat is concerned, it, to me, never really had the same punch that the original Hellcat did. The original Hellcat brought 700 horsepower to the masses at a time when that number was straight up ludicrous. And the 392, and to a lesser extent, the 5.7, when coupled with the 8-speed automatic, completely redefined what a muscle car could be, in that you had the 392, which could and did run 11-second quarter-mile times with the 8-speed automatic. It was actually really something worth talking about. Mustang didn't really have anything for it per se, at least not in stock form. And, well, where was the Camaro, right? So that leads us into the conversation, though. At what point does FCA really need to step their game up? Because, again, the NA guys have had absolutely nothing to sing about for 5 whole years. I'll give you an example. My Hellcat, its birthday is November 19th. It's an early release Hellcat, but that's November 19th of 2014. And really, it's only been since then that FCA has really released anything we're talking about. So we're coming into literally its 5th year of production. And when I say the Hellcat, I'm also talking about the 392 cars, basically anything with an 8-speed automatic, right? So that is really what I want to talk about. If we're talking about cars that had, I don't know, some other impact, what would they be? I mean, we don't have a Viper to talk about from Mopar, and really the Durango is adorable with a 392, but that's really not setting the stage. I guess where I'm really going with this is the Challenger becoming irrelevant in terms of performance from a naturally aspirated point of view? especially when you look at the modability of the Camaro and the Mustang. I mean, realistically, you've got, let's see, let me think about this for a minute. With the Mustang, you can accidentally put one of those things into the 9-second zone. I mean, you can. It's been proven over and over and over again. And by the way, I'm not talking about a personal connection with the car. I'm talking about real internet lifestyle type of relevancy here, which seems to be the only relevancy that seems to matter anymore. I mean, people's personal choices and leanings just don't really seem to matter, especially when they can be chastised so easily by any troll on the internet. So, you know, I get that you might love your 5.7 or love your 392, but we're taking a look at it more from a little bit different point of view here. Hopefully you get that most of this is sincere. Some of it's a little bit tongue-in-cheek. But when you've got your 392 Challenger, and if you ever take the thing to a drag strip, you will know exactly what I'm talking about if you line up against a Hellcat. I mean, I'm sorry, a Mustang. A Mustang that will trap nearly what a stock Hellcat will trap with just a couple of minor modifications. And the only thing about the Mustang that makes it inferior to the Challenger by any stretch of the imagination is simply the fact that it doesn't have that bottom end snappy torque that makes driving something with a 392 so much fun. But there's the rub. If you do anything camshaft wise, you run the risk of losing that bottom end snappiness that you get so accustomed to with the 392. And it loses all of the magic that it once had. So do you suffer getting spanked by a Mustang only to have a car that's a bit more fun to drive? Or do you pony up the obnoxiously ridiculous amount of money that it costs to actually put one of those 392s into a little bit more aggressive place in terms of time slip? Do you spend the extra money or do you start looking elsewhere? That's kind of the question here. And I guess, again, because we're looking at 2023 before we have any hope for any new LX platform, any new Challenger, anything along those lines, lighter weight, whatever the case is. You know, I don't know. It's going to be odd to find out really where any of these guys in terms of FCA, as far as Challengers or Chargers or anything 392 related, it doesn't really matter for the purposes of conversation. It's really all based around the Mustang versus Challenger versus Camaro argument. So let me say what's up to everybody real quick, and then we'll get into what I'm kind of really more or less going on about. I kind of rambled on a little bit there. Dr. Div's asking, so are you talking the Challenger SXT and RT and Scat? No, I'm mainly just talking about the 8-speed cars, V8 stuff. Daniel's asking, also no manuals in the Chargers. Yeah, no kidding, right? That's still kind of weird to me. I mean, the platform is right there. Anyway. Symphonic saying, thoughts on Motor Trend's C8 Dyno article after you finish your opening thoughts? I mean, I didn't really read the whole thing. I can tell you that I did notice, you know, it was pretty conspicuous that the thing made obnoxious power to the rear wheels. Time will tell. The cars are starting to hit the streets now, and I have a feeling that it's not going to be too much longer before you start seeing those things going down the drag strip. I think they're going to be a little bit of an eye-opener, to be honest with you. I mean, be looking for, you know, I'd say it shouldn't be too hard to get one of those into the 10s on a tire straight away. Rift saying, hey, be stuck right in the middle between the two fires here in California, so I can barely get the stream, but want to say, hey, Rift, man, hope things are going well for you. Sorry about that. Yeah, it sucks about the fires, bro. Xcash is saying, I hope they do become irrelevant because it'll be easier for me to get my hands on a Hellcat. I'm going to circle back around. It's a good point. I'm going to circle back around to that. GS1 is saying, I traded my 17 Mustang for a Charger because of seating space. That's another thing. The Charger to me is a lot more endearing than the Challenger in that respect. It is a hot rod sedan, which is pretty cool, and it doesn't force it into a competitive situation with the Mustang or the Camaro. But that being said, it still needs to be competitive, at least a bit more competitive than it already is. Dr. Div saying definitely need more aftermarket support. True that. So good point on that. So aftermarket support is non-existent for the Mopars. And let me just, I'll get to everybody else here in a bit. Hold on. See, Michael Johnson's in saying, howdy, been a while since I've caught your show. Good to see you. Fast Man saying, good evening, Brian. Good evening, Fast Man. Riv saying, thanks. I miss San Francisco. I miss San Francisco too, man. My adopted hometown. Zephyr saying, what up, Professor Mason? What up, man? Let's see. Looks like James has got some plans for his. Got some pikes in the future. Very good suggestion there. Hellcat, short block, and Pro Charger with 18 pounds. I know a camshaft grind that'll work beautifully for your car. Actually, a camshaft that's near and dear to my heart. So, I want to get back to what I was chatting about on the topic, though, and one of those things was aftermarket support for the 392 is abysmal. A lot of that has to do with the fact that the backyard shade tree mechanic can't actively or easily work on those cars. To do a camshaft swap requires removing the cylinder heads. Just the confines of the LX platform make it a pain in the ass. I mean, if you've ever tried to do spark plugs on a Hellcat, be prepared for. I mean, there are other, masochistic ways you can spend your time that are a whole lot more fun than trying to swap plugs on a car that you don't have any room. I mean, it's not very user friendly is what I'm getting at. But then again, user friendly has nothing to do with Mopar, and really neither does user or owner satisfaction by any stretch of the imagination, whether we're talking about aftermarket support or we're talking about Mopar support, like the old think direct connection type of a situation. You don't even get that option anymore. It is really kind of cringeworthy that Mopar keeps hearkening back to their past for, I don't know, some level of, direction when it comes to marketing their cars, or, all the tire smoke and rock and roll music that you've heard me talk about. It's a bit hypocritical when they are seemingly so fast to deny warranty claims. Warranty claims that if you were to look at the cost of the car that you bought, you would have seemingly paid for 4 or 5 times over. Have you noticed the cost when it comes to Mopars versus Mustangs and Camaros? It's decidedly different. I mean, what is a base, just run-of-the-mill Scat Pack going to go for? 43? 44? I mean, let's say you can get the thing out the door for 39. What are you able to get Mustangs for? What are you able to get Camaros for? Yeah, significantly less. And that's another thing. I feel like Mopar, even though they're riding this sales wave like you wouldn't believe, I mean, to be honest with you, I think that they're way too far overpriced, especially for what you get based on performance. Now, that being said, when these cars first came out, there was no real answer for them stock for stock. I mean, there was nothing that was going to run 11s or have the potential to run 11s the way that the 392 cars could right out of the box on a tire. So I guess it had that working for it. But is this Mopar just, rinsing and repeating the past? Because, back in the day, it was pretty funny. Mopar was late to the party, to the muscle car party, at least if you want to call pony cars like the Challenger, the Cuda, cars like that. The E-body was late to the party, and it didn't stay too long either. The Hemi, the big bad boy, that thing was done after its second year of production. After that, it was just basically a shell of what it used to be. No pun intended, right? But because it was nothing more than a shell of what it used to be, is that really what we're dealing with nowadays? I mean, are we going to have to deal with the frowny-faced version of the Challenger, like the 72 through 74 Challengers from back in the day? No power, nothing but a little bit of style, and cars that are coming in third place over and over and over again, with the only thing that actually keeps them, as far as a sales viability standpoint is concerned, the only thing that would keep those things actually trucking would be that 392 engine, that snappy, real high torque, down low engine that if you do anything to it, like camshafts or intake manifolds or what have you, that could potentially kill that power. It's why it's so difficult to put a camshaft together for a 392. It's everything you do to that car is ruining one of the sweetest parts about driving that car, which is that real snappy bottom end torque. So anyway, I know I'm getting a little bit circular. It is a late night show, and I'm a little bit beat after today. But that being said, decaf, by the way. That being said, where do you guys stand in all of this? Are you seeing the car slowly fading into irrelevancy, or do you think that it's something to be commended? Look, think of it like this. The Challenger has had a run from 2008 now to basically coming up on 2020, realistically. That's a 13 model year run, and you can't really say that anybody else has had that type of run. We've got a 5-year run with the latest 8-speed automatic variants of these cars. So is it really a bad thing to have that type of longevity? I would probably argue no, it's not, except when your competition is continuously getting so much better. At what point does Mopar actually step their game up a little bit? At what point do they actually take a look at the product that they're putting out there to folks and think that it might be a good time to reclaim their spot at the top? Because if not now, when? Are we going to have to wait until 2023? Until what? The next version of the 5-liter gets released for the Mustang? What are they going to do? Start releasing 5.2-liter Coyotes now? Not saying that that's a rumor. I'm just saying that seems to be the next logical step. They bump the thing up another, 20 horsepower and just keep putting the gap, no pun intended, but aptly appropriate here, but keep gapping the Challenger in terms of performance and modability. Then you say, okay, well, what about the Camaro? The Challenger is outpacing the Camaro in sales. Let's change gears here for just a minute. Yeah, it is, but you're also taking into account a lot of fleet sales. I don't know where the SRT powered cars, the 392 cars, come into play here, nor do I know, in other words, 392 versus 6.2. However, I will say this: when you are talking about modability, even the LT is still LS derived. We're talking heads, cam, intake, a gear, and a drag pack. That's it. And that is a 10-something running, an automatic transmission. That's a 10-something running Camaro. Please show me how you're going to do that with a Challenger. It's really difficult. And I don't mean just like a 1090. I'm talking a 1050. Now, I get it. They're both exceedingly fast, and you can still give the nod to the Challenger for one, at least in one respect, and that's based on weight. But what I don't want to do is I don't want to keep giving the Challenger concessions. And that's where a lot of people start to get it wrong, and that's a bit of a shame. And that's where the Charger just kind of doesn't even come into conversation here, because it's a 4-door. But the issue that I think is the bigger deal is people keep giving the Challenger concessions because it's heavy. Think of the power that the engine is making to drag that much weight from a dead stop to the end of 1,320 feet in naturally aspirated in less than 12 seconds. That is screaming. And that is screaming to the actual efficiency and just the power that 392 is making. But what it lacks and what it forgets is that it is alienating anybody from doing anything to that car in terms of gaining any performance. Try putting a supercharger on the thing. Oddly enough, it's running an HP 70 transmission, which is known for letting go. So there's that. I'm not calling it glass, but there are some things that could really stand a little bit of, bumping up, if for lack of a better way of putting it, when it comes to durability with that Mopar. So in saying all of that, what's the next step? What would I do if it were my company type of a situation? Well, I can tell you this: Mopar has got to get with the times. If they're going to put an engine in that 392 into a platform that's already that heavy. They need to do something about weight savings. They've already got the 426 aluminum block. Either make a 392 variant of that if warrantability is an issue because of rod to stroke ratio, or run the 426 out finally and quit pussyfooting with this thing, because everybody is sick and tired of the 426 commercials. Everybody's tired of always hearing that there's something coming new on the horizon. But for the NA guys have nothing to write home about. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. If you want a fantastic deal on a well-worn but yet still very serviceable 392 powered Challenger, look no farther than your local Ford dealership. Because I'll tell you something, and driving around, I've noticed more Mopars in used Ford dealerships Ford dealerships used car lots than anything else. And it's a testament to not only the value that the Mustang brings, but these guys are wanting to be involved in their cars. They want to be able to customize them in terms of power production, either an NA build or a supercharged build, whatever the case is. It's a known fact that those cars seem to take to that stuff pretty well. I'm not saying that they're bulletproof. The 10-speed does need to be upgraded before any real power gets laid to it. And obviously, if you're going to turn any real hard RPMs, we're talking 75, 7,800 RPMs on the regs, you might want to consider going with a set of oil pump gears for the 5-liter. But that comes with the territory, especially when bolting a supercharger to the thing instantly puts you practically into the 9s, especially if you're tuning on E85. So then there's that to consider. And I hate to break it to you guys, but if you've got a 392 powered car and you're shooting for the 9s, you've made already the biggest mistake that you could have possibly made by going with a 392 powered car to begin with. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's just that you're dealing with way too much mass and not near enough top end horsepower to be able to drag that much mass that quickly. I've seen it 100 times where guys have really thrown the kitchen sink at the cars, and I've seen them cam only with a little bit of weight reduction get into the 10s. Not too shabby for a big, heavy, brutish car. But what you have to remember with all of that is that that same setup, that same mentality going into, I don't know, other makes, Mustang, but in this case, Camaro is what I'm talking about, or at least what's on my mind. That's the car that instead of going 1090s goes 1050s or 1080s. And that owner isn't happy if they only went into the 10s. They're only happy when it runs that 1070 number, so to speak. That's the difference. And that's why the advice that I've given is a little bit mother hennish. And it is kind of bullshit in some respects, because I'm trying to, in some cases, talk people out of modifying the Mopars. All the meanwhile, sweating and stressing my ass off over camshaft specifications on an engine that, on paper, is a fantastic engine with head flow numbers that would boggle your mind. Boggle racers' mind, certainly from 20 years ago. That's when it's the most difficult for me, is saying, look, man, if you want to throw that kind of money at your car, that's great if the car was inherited or you paid it off or you just picked one up for a steal. But the reality is that there's nothing that you can realistically do to that 392 to put it into any real contention aside from supercharging it or throwing a ton of nitrous at it, and then you've had to rebuild your transmission. The list goes on and on. Whereas guys with the Camaros aren't running into that problem. Guys with the Mustangs, well, they're running into it, but it's just a little bit different way of running into the problem. They run into it because they're immediately making too much power, but they don't have the weight to deal with. So their transmissions seem to hold up for a little bit longer, but they do still fail. So at least there's that to consider. I guess all in is, we can have a conversation that, basically picks apart pretty much the Mopars, but you got to give credit where it's due. And that car, the 392 powered cars especially, are a riot to drive, just provided you don't expect anything more out of them than they're already giving you. And since Mopar isn't going to support the buyers, even though they're marketing the cars in a way that you would think would be, the next portion of the commercial is go to your direct connection dealer, get your scat pack for your 392, your headers, your cam, your this, your that. Order it that way and then take delivery of your car that way. You would think that that's the next thing that's coming, but it never does come, which is a real shame. Really bums me out because as somebody who is such a Mopar fan, I'm starting to lose a little bit of that faith. Not in my Hellcat, because my Hellcat is, well, it's the car that I love. It's literally my most favorite car that I've ever owned. But it sucks that I had to move into the Hellcat to get the kind of performance and reliability in terms of durability that the 392 just was never going to be able to give me. So anyway, let me check in with you guys. Let's see. GS1 saying also CTSV and a Chevy SS are both way overpriced for a used car. Yeah, those are kind of rarities, though. I don't really see those come up, at least the SS. CTSVs you see all the time. Let's see. Tuning support forums is lacking, too. This is coming from James. So, yeah, tuning support is lacking for him because not many tuners speak Mopar. And to be honest with you, James, it takes a long time to develop tunes, and especially nowadays. Nobody is wanting to throw their time basically out the window to just give somebody a tune and say, hey, you buy HP Tuner software, here's a tune, here's a bass tune that'll work well for you. You're not even getting that. It used to be back in the day, it was pretty common for guys to tune their own cars, for one, but then openly discuss what they're doing with their tunes. But no, you're exactly right. You don't see any tune sharing in the Mopar community the way that you do with, well, especially the LS community. But I think that's got us a little bit spoiled. I mean, we're coming into some deep, deep years with the LS at this point. I mean, we're coming up on, geez, damn near 30 years worth of the, 25 years now worth of the LS. So, you know, I got to say that, yeah, there's going to be a lot more support there, but I just don't think you'll ever see that kind of support. I don't care how many years deep we're talking about the Gen 3 Hemi. These guys just aren't going to give up anything because, again, number one, it's taken too long to put tunes together that actually work for these cars. And two, man, I got to be honest with you, and this is probably the bigger part of the point, each one of these Mopars is a freaking little snowflake, man. They're all a little bit different. I can take two cars, do read files on them, and let's say they're 6 months apart, and there are weird little subtle differences in that tune. In some cases, that can make the difference between one tune just in general working and the other one not. I'll spare you the details, but it even comes down to there's an efficiency table that can black things out or just completely just ruin your day on a dyno. Camshaft advance curves, or retard curves, I should say, that can completely black out your day on a dyno. There's little things that can just drive you crazy, and each one of them can be slightly different. Still haven't figured that out, but that's one of the reasons why. They're not as cookie cutter as you would like for them to be. Let's see. Riff saying, so I decided to get an unlocked PCM and a Trinity 2 tuner from Hemi Fever and a tune along with a trans tune from them. Have you heard if they're any good? Hemi tunes, that is. I did not have the greatest experience with Hemi tuners. So, or Hemi Fever rather. But I'm pretty sure he's got his stuff sorted out by now, so your results will probably be a bit more favorable than mine. But early on with one of my trucks, I had one of his tunes, and it did not work out well. Let's see. Michael Johnson's hanging out with Rev. See, G1 1320 saying Fox Body Mustangs ran from 79 to 93 Actually, it's technically not exactly 100% accurate. All of the original SN95s were also kind of sleight of hand considered a variation of the Fox platform. But you are correct about the traditional Fox platform. Let's see. Hang on just a second. Oh, Riff saying, I know I'm behind in the vid, but it's more money to own a Mopar. Yeah, I would say that's kind of a huge issue. So you always still have to pay that Mopar tax. Where do you even begin with that? That's probably one of the bigger issues when it comes to dealing with Mopars. And it's this stupid little gremlin in the room that nobody really wants to acknowledge. It is true. It is absolutely a thing. The Mopar tax is a very real thing. It costs, no matter what you do with a Dodge, it takes at least 3 times the money to get half the power. I just never could understand that. But again, that's also one of the reasons why back in the day, this history is starting to repeat itself, guys. Back in the day, old school Mopar hot rodders were the guys that were doing all the work themselves, or they were farming out stock pieces to get hot rodded and come, the end of the week, take those parts, put them on the car, take them to the drag strip. Excuse me. That is something that I always noticed about Mopar, and it's starting to actually kind of work that way again, where not only does it cost you a fortune to try to do anything under the sun to your Mopar, but the gains just really aren't there. There's just, now granted, they're fantastic from the factory, but if you want more than what the factory has opted to give you, you are going to have to shell out major coin. The type of money that LS guy would spend on his car is what you would spend on a camshaft swap on a 392. Go figure. But anyway, Dr. Div saying, I consider my shop a Mopar and GM performance shop, and I get more Mopar in shop than anything. We're probably tuning 2 Mopars a week. I don't think it's irrelevant, but these people coming in have money. Saying nothing beats a custom tune. Well, yeah, but you have to, right? I mean, think of the amount of time that it takes. Think about the amount of money that it actually costs to buy just the parts alone. I mean, look, you know more than anybody what some of these cores cost for the cams. So, when it comes to those types of things, it's a little bit off-putting for the average guy when he gets a quote that is so obnoxiously high. When he's got buddies that have Camaros or trucks or whatever that are out there hauling ass for a whole lot less money. Let me put it to you like this. So let's take this into a little bit different direction now, guys, because I've been talking about the NA stuff for a while. Guys, I've been talking about the NA stuff now for like 2 years. And no matter how much I yammer on into this phone, it's not going to matter to FCA, okay? They're not listening to me, obviously. But let's talk about some of the differences between modding Mopars and modding LSs, for example. Let's just make this super, super easy. When it comes to putting a 9-second car together, and when I say a 9-second car at this point, I mean 9.00. Something that is not just tickling the 9s. I mean, this thing is going deep into the 9s, running up on the 8-second time slip zone. Mainly because that is what the internet wants to see, right? Internet is not interested in 9-second cars. They're bored to tears with them. They're slow by today's standards. So if you got a 9-second car, you think you got something that's fast, I got news for you. It was fast about 3 or 4 years ago, maybe even 5 years ago, depending on which side of the fence you're on. But LS guy has been going 9s on accident for a lot longer than the Challenger's even been out. So I mean, we're talking back in 2000s here, early 2000s. But what does it take to run 9.0s in a Challenger Hellcat? I'm not even going to get into 392 stuff because it ain't happening. I don't care if one guy's ever done it. It ain't happening on the regular basis. Not that deep. There's Hellcats that have run 8s. There's Hellcats that have run deep into the 9s, 920s even, on stock displacement, stock superchargers, boost only. But look at how easy it is to run 9s with LS stuff, and then run 8s with LS stuff, and then even run 7s. I'll be honest with you guys, man. In Houston Raceway Park, it's an eye-opening experience when you go there and there's a big group of guys there with LS trucks, naturally aspirated, supercharged with Maggies and turbocharged. I can't believe it. There's about 3 or 4 just in the group alone of the turbo LS trucks that run mid-9s. These are street-driven trucks, driven to the drag strip, run 950s, turn around and come home. It's that simple. NA trucks that are running, low 11s, 1120, 1130, and a couple of Maggie trucks that are probably somewhere in the 1050 range, just sprinkled in for good measure. That is what you're up against when you start talking Mopar performance. You're talking about getting your ass handed to you by somebody's garage-built truck. I want that to sink in for a minute. It sounds like it should be something important because it is. It is not that hard to build something that is that fast. And forget about reliability concerns when a short block will only cost you $400 and the better part of maybe a day and a half in your garage to replace. Yeah, try doing that with a Mopar. Try doing that with a Mopar, and exactly, right there. It's hard to even think about. I can hear you cringing on this side of the camera. But it's the truth. And that's the thing that people don't want to hear. When you're buying a Mopar, you're buying into the marketing hype that has been put behind it. You're not buying true performance. I'll give you a perfect example of this. My Hellcat runs 1020s, 1030s in 0 DA type weather. Good track prep. Stock boost, little bit of transmission tuning on a drag pack, and that's it. Sounds fantastic. And you can have the argument about it being a stock car running 1030s and 1020s all you want. But if I take my car to the drag strip and I line up to some guy's truck who then proceeds to gap my ass with a vehicle that cost a third of what my Hellcat did, that'll definitely be an eye-opening experience. And I'm talking about my Hellcat, Little Miss Revlon, running 1020s. The guy has built a truck, damn good looking vehicle, mind you, too. These aren't clapped out pieces of junk. These are nice ass trucks. Daily driven in some cases that are out there running mid-9s, low 10s, if it's on a bad pass. Try rolling up on that with your 392 and then try having the conversation with a straight face that, oh, well, it's a big, heavy, comfortable car. Truck. Oh yeah, and I'm not talking about just regular single cabs. I'm talking about quad cab trucks. They got 4 doors too, Jack, and they're out there running 9s and low 10s. And there, you might say, okay, well, that's different. That's an LS. It doesn't matter when you're at the drag strip. It doesn't matter when you're watching those taillights get itty bitty. Doesn't matter. You're getting your ass handed to you, and you're spending a lot more money than the guy that's kicking your ass for the privilege of having your ass whipped. Not too cool, but that's the world we live in now. That's the world that we have created for ourselves. We've got pickup trucks going 9s. We've got Mustangs accidentally running mid-9s with a supercharger and E85 tune. And of course, all the extra bits and kibbles that it takes to make that work. But since we're living in that world, Mopar really needs to step their game up. And that's really the only point that I'm making. Is it irrelevant? It's hard to say, but it's certainly becoming more obsolete in terms of actual outright performance. But they're still fun as hell to drive. I just don't want people to start confusing fun and fast, because we are quickly running up on an era where it ain't fast unless it's running deep into the nines. It won't even be considered competitive. Well, this is the world we live in now. Cars aren't competitive unless you're running in the eights, man. I hate to be the one to break it to you, but that's facts. Look at the videos that get clicks. There ain't no 13-second car getting clicks, not unless it's some kind of clapped out, roadkill car. No, the cars that are getting all the love right now, and what you would be led to believe, is that if your car does not run an 8-second quarter mile time, or if it at least can't run nines, then it's got to be a piece of shit, right? That's what you're being led to believe. And it's a real shame, because there's a lot of work, a lot of time, and a lot of love going into these Mopars, and they're not getting any of the credit that I feel like they deserve, because they can't compete. You win on Sunday, sell on Monday. Mopar's selling on Monday without the ability really to win anymore, at least on the drag strip, which is where they're supposed to be the kings, right? Let's see. Dr. Div saying, it takes a lot to make these cars run really fast without at least a Hellcat. It's not cheap. And to make another one, let's see. And to make another one to do it costs what a Hellcat costs. But they come in and I make a living. Absolutely. Let's see. Xcash saying, really just need a new slimmer platform. LX has been around for way too long. Very good point, by the way, X. As a matter of fact, that platform has been around since the E55, and I think even before that. It's freaking 100 years old, it seems like. And an all aluminum Hemi. Yep, I agree with that 100%. At Michael Justice, Doc Diff, nothing does. I do lots of street tuning, and he's talking about doing all the street tuning. And he's got access to DynoJet and a Mustang dyno. Zephyr saying, I think the 6.4 misses some charm and character that the 6.1 Hellcat motors have in spades. You might be onto something there, buddy. My 6.4 was sterile, good, but sterile. Not sure if some sort of 6.2 NA would be better. The 6.1, awesome car, and awesome engine, fun engine. Always seemed to be a happy little engine too. But yeah, I get what you're saying. It does lack a little bit of that rawness, but it's that rawness that puts ET numbers up. So, I mean, you want to talk about sterile, go find yourself a Mustang and take that thing for a test drive. It's like driving an electric razor. Dr. Diff, you were talking about me and my engine when you were saying about camshaft and cost stuff. Yeah, that's absolutely true. And I love the challenge of trying to put a camshaft together for a Hemi that doesn't have. The thing is with Hemis, the smaller is better, not bigger, because of the head flow. You have zero. This is the funny thing about Hemis too, is it's so hard to put a cam together because you have hardly any velocity. Anyway, I'll spare you all the details. It's a trip, to say the least. Let's see. Oh, Rift is saying that he's lost the stream, but he's still got the chat. Let's see. Oh, Rift, let's see. GS1 saying 79 to 04 for the chassis. Oh, he's talking about the Fox stuff. Very, very exactly on that. Very good. Let's see. Jason Leonard saying, man, I don't know. Sticking the 392. Saw this dude who bored a 6.1 to 392. Dude's running 8 1/4. There's actually quite a few of those. There's a lot of guys that took the 6.1s, bore stroke, cam intake, boost, and are getting 8s out of it, and that's great. But for the amount of time, effort, energy, and everything else put into that car, a used Hellcat with nitrous and a few other mods would just about get you there on E85, and you could drive it to the track. It might not run 8s exactly, but good God, it would get you close. But there are a lot of guys with 6.1s that have done the work to them and have actually had some great results with them. So, but again, it's just how much did you spend to get there? Jason said, don't know how much you spent. Yeah, it's funny. You got ahead of me there. Awesome. Rip saying, just so I can catch up, be Hemi Fever tune and Trans tune good? I'm sure it's fine, man. I'm sure it'll be fine. Again, I just did not have the greatest experience with him. But again, that doesn't mean anything. Might have just been a one-off thing. I bet you'll have a good experience with him. A lot of guys have been using him lately. You've been hearing his name come up a lot, so I say go for it. Catalyst is saying, question, I see a few dealers are starting to offer the Mustang GT with dealer-installed boost with a dealer warranty. Do you think this will ever happen with Mopar? It does already happen with Mopar. They're called Hellcats. But not on a 392. No, they actually did for a while with the 5.7. God, what was the name of that thing? Eagle something? Ah, crap. Anyway, I think they were putting E4 superchargers on them. But anyway, that was something they did, but I don't think they do it anymore. Let's see, Ruth's saying, yeah, but your Hellcat is still can be a better daily than that truck. Yeah, maybe, maybe not. I mean, it depends on how you have the truck tuned. But, you know, granted, it would be better in one respect, and that's fuel economy, because you'd be running E85 in that truck for sure. But again, it's just making the point. And really, that is a subjective thing too. I mean, if the E85 doesn't bother you for a daily vehicle, and that's really more fuel economy and range than anything else, then it's almost a moot point. Daniel saying it's not fast unless you can brake traction in fifth gear. I've had cars that will do that, and you're right. And it's also spooky, but it is a lot of fun. Michael Johnson saying, look at what Kenny Duttwaller did back in the day. I would agree with that. Hang on. Shawnee, good evening, Brian. Better late than never. What's new? All kinds of stuff are new, huh? Good seeing you, Sean. Let's see. Rich saying stuff like demonology gets clicks, does help to make stuff like he does. Oh yeah, no, he's got his own thing going on. He's doing good. Sean saying, thanks for your help. I dragged Big Red kicking and screaming to a 1055 at 131. New drive shaft is imminent. I love it. Give me a shout before you install it. We got to talk about how to measure that thing up too, by the way. But congrats on the 1055. That's kick ass. So I guess really in closing with all of this, guys, one of the things I wanted to just lay out there is, look, if you're having fun with your car, that's really all that matters. You don't believe into all the BS hype and all this other nonsense. When it comes to what you like, buy what you like and enjoy what you like. But unfortunately, in the times that we live in, it's far too easy to get caught up in the numbers and everything else. And man, look, I get it. I'm 100% right there with you guys. But I don't want it to sound like, and through all this, I don't want it to sound like I am not immune to, you know, seeing what is out there and what's running what numbers. But you know, if you're having fun, it really shouldn't matter. But not everybody has that mentality, and you've got to be blindly following a brand to really adhere to that mentality. So I don't know. It's too bad when things end up going that way. And what I mean by going that way is, you know, you spend the money to try to mod your Mopar and get a little bit more out of it, only to, you know, it might not necessarily do what you hope it was going to do. So Fox is saying, I believe the GT500 info embargo is over tomorrow. Finally get some numbers, I hope. Yeah, that's another thing. Good luck. That GT500, I'm not so sure the embargo is up tomorrow, but if it is, I cannot wait to see what that's all about. GS1 saying, side question, what can I expect on a stock 19 Charger Scat Pack 392 at the strip? If you are running stock tires all the way around, I wouldn't expect much. 1260, 1270, depending on your DA. You put a tire on it, you might be able to get the thing down into the 1250s, 1240s, somewhere around in there. Kenny's asking, I bought a comp cam stage 2, 220, 230 for a 6.1. That lifter rollers you recommend me? Oh, what roller lifters do I recommend? Hellcats. 220, 230, you will be in good shape with that cam. Quite a few folks have been falling into those cam specs, by the way. It seems to be something the 392s and the 6.1s really like. Let's see. Riff said, I'm hoping to go 1040 with the Hemi Fever tune and trans tune with 17s. I think you can do it. Be careful on the launch. Riff said, I'm worried that they'll just send me a can tune. Well, yeah, they're going to send you a can tune right off the bat. That's going to be what they send you. And then, minor adjustments they'll make based on your data logs. X is saying, I was having this argument over the 392 right now being the slowest of the big three in stock form as well as an aftermarket. Dodge needs to drop the weight on the car and up the 392's power. The 392 aftermarket is why I left and got a 5-liter. My point exactly, X. My point exactly, my man. Look, I'm right there with you, and I get it. There's a reason why. I've said it before. I'll say it again. If you want to smoke and deal on a slightly used but not abused 392 powered contraption, find yourself nowhere else but your local Ford dealership's used car lot. Dr. Duff saying Hellcats have roller tip rockers? No, they don't. Did I miss something in there? No, Hellcats don't have roller tip. The only thing roller on a Hellcat is the lifters. Riff saying he's trying to get a hold of Sean to find out what Hemi Fever does. Yeah, he does quite a bit. Pretty in-depth on the tuning. Shawnee's saying super chats are not working. I don't know why. They should be. But thank you for trying. Shawnee's saying I put a Hemi Fever tuning on my 392 Scat Pack from Sean. Made a nice number on the dyno. Donald Power saying, hello, Mr. Mason. Hello, Donald. Dr. Diff saying, oh, I didn't think so. He's talking about the roller rockers. Yeah, no, they don't have. I think Jessel was making a set of hot rodded rockers, but nobody was buying them, so they quit making them. Well, fellas, I'm going to check out, but thank you all very much for hanging out with me. I hope you guys had a chance to chime in. I hope I answered your questions. But that is going to be a wrap for me. I'm going to wake up early in the morning. Hope you all have a great one. We'll see you soon. Take care. Bye.